There's a reason so many of you saw this trailer drop and thought it was a video game, and you got way too excited before you realized it wasn't. Don't lie, I saw your comments. That split second where your brain went, wait, is this finally? Before reality kicked in and you remembered where you are. You're a Maul fan. Hope is a trap. We've learned this. But here's the thing. That instinctive hope, that reflex that made you think video game before you thought animated series, that didn't come from nowhere. That response lives in your body because somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember. You remember that there was a Maul game once, a real one, with actual footage, with developers who believed in it, and it got ripped away from us before we ever got to play it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the game we never got, the wound that never healed, and why this new Dave Filoni series might finally be the closest thing to consolation we'll ever receive. I'm not promising you it will be. I've been hurt too many times to promise anything. But I'm choosing to hope anyway, and I want to explain why. This is Group Therapy with Receipts. October 9th, 2010. That's the date it all started. A small Austin-based development studio called Redfly Studio began formal prototyping on what would become one of the most tantalizing canceled projects in Star Wars gaming history. LucasArts had contracted them after being impressed by their work porting The Force Unleashed 2 to the Nintendo Wii. It was an unconventional choice. Redfly was known for ports, not original Access Day development. But something about their pitch convinced LucasArts to hand them the keys to Darth Maul. The project carried the internal codename Damage. The working title was simply Maul. The formal pitch tagline that would have been used in marketing was Battle of the Sith Lords. From the beginning, Redfly's creative director Dan Borth and his team envisioned something ambitious. A narrative beginning with Maul at age 12, following the character through his brutal Sith training under Sidious, before arriving at the events of the Phantom Menace. This wasn't going to be some generic action game with a Star Wars skin. This was designed from the ground up to explore a character who had been defined by physicality and presence, but never by interiority. Think about that for a second. A Maul origin story. Playable. You controlling him as he's forged into the weapon we met in 1999. We would have finally understood how he became Maul, what suffering shaped him, what his relationship with his master actually looked like, what happened in all those years before he ignited that double-bladed saber for the first time on screen. The timing felt significant. Maul had just been announced as returning to the Clone Wars animated series, which was entering its 4th season. George Lucas himself was personally invested in the character's resurrection, working directly with supervising director Dave Filoni on the storytelling approach. There was genuine institutional momentum behind the idea that Darth Maul deserved a spotlight, and Redfly was positioned to deliver the gaming component of that renaissance. Development progressed through 2011 and into 2012. What began as a Wii-focused title expanded into something far more ambitious as LucasArts started discussing next-generation platforms. Concept art from this period, which would later leak, showed environments ranging from Mustafar's volcanic hellscapes to the urban depths of Coruscant's criminal underworld. Combat systems were designed specifically around Maul's double-bladed lightsaber, accounting for how his acrobatic fighting style would translate into player-controlled movement. Environmental destruction mechanics were implemented. The team built prototype gameplay demonstrating what it would feel like to be Darth Maul. Not watch him, not control some generic Force user, inhabit him. Dan Borth later described how LucasArts, while presenting challenges, gave them the ability to pursue their vision. His team saw themselves as developers who had great Star Wars stories to tell, who understood what made Maul compelling as a character, who could deliver an experience worthy of fan investment. They weren't just building a product, they believed in what they were making. Then came October 30th, 2012. The Walt Disney Company announced its acquisition of Lucasfilm, paying $4 billion for George Lucas's empire. Every Star Wars project suddenly existed in limbo, awaiting decisions from new corporate ownership about what would live and what would die. The death blow landed in April 2013. Disney made the decision to effectively shutter LucasArts as a development studio, transitioning it into a licensing entity that would partner with external developers rather than creating games internally. Approximately 150 employees lost their jobs. The Maul game, along with numerous other projects in various stages of completion, was cancelled. Redfly Studios' years of work, the concept art, the prototypes, the narrative frameworks, the combat systems, the environments, the careful attention to what it meant to be this specific character, all of it was shelved, indefinitely. They had done the work. They had built something that functioned. They believed in it. And it was erased not because it was bad, but because corporate acquisition made it convenient to cancel. In April 2014, Game Informer's Andrew Reiner published artwork from the canceled project under the headline, "Art from the Darth Maul game You'll Never Get to Play." That was our first glimpse of what might have been. Then, in October 2015, Game Informer ran an extensive feature titled Into the Shadows, the story of the Darth Maul game that never came to be, issue 253, pages 18 to 23, which included interviews with Redfly developers and additional gameplay footage. The footage was simultaneously thrilling and devastating. Prototype gameplay showed Maul's double-bladed saber in action, environmental destruction responding to force powers, a visual style that felt genuinely cinematic. This wasn't vaporware. This wasn't empty promises. This was a real game that real developers had really built. A game that worked, that looked good, that could have been released. Redfly later expressed interest in repitching the project under Disney's new gaming strategy. No revival materialized. The Maul game remained dead. And we've been carrying that ever since. Here's why I'm telling you all this. Because when you saw that trailer for the new animated series and your brain short-circuited into thinking it was a video game, that wasn't random. That response exists because somewhere in your nervous system, you remember being promised something that was taken away. You remember glimpsing what should have been, and every single Maul announcement since 2013 has reopened that wound without ever healing it. But, and this is a big but, while Redfly was building their game, something else was happening in the world of Star Wars animation that would fundamentally transform Maul's place in the franchise. And it happened because of one person, Dave Filoni. When George Lucas decided to resurrect Maul in the Clone Wars Season 4, an episode titled Brothers, Filoni was charged with executing that vision. The resurrection could easily have felt cheap, a cynical cash grab trading on a dead character's popularity. Instead, Filoni crafted something that leaned into the absurdity while treating the emotional stakes seriously. The episode revealed that Maul had survived his bisection through sheer hatred and dark side connection, dragging himself through garbage on the junk moon Lotho Minor, his lower body replaced by a horrific spider-like mechanical construct built from scrap. His mind had shattered. When his brother Savage Opress finally found him, Maul was a maddened creature, muttering fragments of revenge against the Jedi who had cut him down. It was grotesque, it was operatic, and it worked. From there, Filoni transformed Maul from a supporting villain into a major antagonist with his own ambitions. The criminal underlord arc gave Maul agency he'd lacked as Sidious's tool. He took control of the Shadow Collective, uniting Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, and elements of the Mandalorian Death Watch under his leadership. He conquered Mandalore itself. When Sidious finally confronted his former apprentice, viewing Maul's criminal activities as a rival power base, the resulting duel demonstrated both how far Maul had come and how outmatched he remained against the Dark Lord who'd trained him. The Clone Wars was cancelled by Disney in 2013 after its 5th season, leaving storylines unresolved. But Filoni wasn't finished with Maul. Star Wars Rebels premiered in 2014, set approximately 15 years after the Clone Wars. Maul returned once again, this time as a broken, aging figure searching for meaning. No longer a criminal overlord, a haunted survivor seeking revenge against Sidious, manipulating the young Jedi Ezra Bridger, and ultimately confronting the nemesis who had defined his entire existence. The duel between Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Rebels episode Twin Suns stands as one of the most celebrated moments in Star Wars animation. It lasted only 3 strikes. 3. Kenobi adopting the defensive stance that Qui-Gon Jinn had used when Maul killed him, then cutting Maul down with the same move. Those 3 strikes carried decades of narrative weight. Maul died in Obi-Wan's arms, asking whether the boy Kenobi was protecting, Luke Skywalker, was the chosen one. When Kenobi confirmed it, Maul's final words were, "He will avenge us." Not revenge, vindication. A monster who'd never been loved finding something like peace at the end. By the time the final season of The Clone Wars arrived on Disney Plus in 2020, completing storylines abandoned when the series was originally canceled, Maul had accumulated more screen time across Star Wars properties than Darth Vader himself. Approximately 142 minutes of Maul compared to Vader's 76 minutes. A character killed off with 6 minutes of screen time and 3 lines of dialogue had become one of the franchise's most consistently featured figures. All through animation, all through Filoni's stewardship, all through the work of one voice actor who understood what made this character tick, Sam Witwer. The resurrection required a new voice. Peter Serafinowicz had provided Maul's limited dialogue in The Phantom Menace, but the resurrected Maul needed someone who could carry extended scenes, someone who could transform a character defined by silence into one with genuine psychological depth. Witwer was already known to Star Wars fans as the voice and likeness model for Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games, but his work as Maul became something different, a portrayal that continued across multiple series and ultimately into live action. From his first appearance in Brothers, Witwer demonstrated an understanding of Maul that went beyond simple voice acting. He provided interiority to a character who'd previously been pure physicality. The range was remarkable. He voiced the maddened, spider-legged creature on Lotho Minor, barely coherent. He voiced the cunning crime lord commanding the Shadow Collective. He voiced the aging, desperate figure in Rebels. He voiced the dying man who finally let go. Each iteration felt like the same character at different points in a coherent psychological journey. Not a series of performances, but a single sustained characterization across years of storytelling. And he's one of us, by the way. At conventions, he doesn't deliver perfunctory answers about his work. He engages with deep-cut lore questions. He offers interpretive insights into Maul's psychology. He demonstrates investment that matches or exceeds the most dedicated fans. That matters. When Maul appeared in Solo, a Star Wars story in 2018, a live-action cameo revealing his control of the Crimson Dawn criminal syndicate, Witwer provided the vocal performance, while Ray Park returned for the physical portrayal. Brief as it was, that cameo demonstrated something important. The work done in animation had earned recognition from the live-action side of the franchise. Maul had transcended his original medium. Now let me address the thing I know you're worried about. Screen time. I've seen the comments. Please don't suck, please don't suck. I just want him to actually be the protagonist. Watch them make it an ensemble piece and Maul gets 4 episodes. The fear is real, and it's justified. We've been here before. We've seen Maul show up for crucial scenes in someone else's story, deliver spectacular moments, and then exit stage left while the camera follows characters with less visual impact and shallower histories. Here's what we actually know about the new series. Not enough. That's the honest answer. We don't have confirmed episode counts. We don't have official statements about whether Maul is the sole protagonist or part of an ensemble. We don't have a release window beyond coming to Disney Plus. What we have is a trailer, Dave Filoni's involvement, and hope. That's it. Hope and a track record. But here's why I'm choosing to believe anyway. Filoni's track record isn't just good, it's the reason any of us still care. He took Ahsoka Tano, a character introduced in the 2008 Clone Wars theatrical film who was met with widespread skepticism and dismissed as a kid appeal marketing ploy, and spent years developing her into one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. By the time she faced Vader in Rebels and subsequently headlined her own live-action Disney Plus series, she had earned every moment of that spotlight. He took Maul, a character killed after 6 minutes of screen time, and gave him a complete arc, from rage to ambition to desperation to acceptance. He made 3 strikes in a duel carry more emotional weight than entire feature films. He demonstrated that he understands something crucial about what makes characters resonate. It's not spectacle alone, though his action sequences are spectacular. It's not fan service, though he clearly loves giving fans what they want. It's emotional coherence, the sense that payoffs have been earned through patient setup. And now he's Chief Creative Officer at Lucasfilm. That promotion was announced in 2023. The person who gave Maul his second life, who understood what made him compelling when most of the industry saw him as a dead villain from a prequel nobody liked, is now in charge of the entire creative direction of Star Wars. If anyone's going to get a protagonist-centric Maul story right, it's him. I also want to talk about the animation itself, because one of the quieter arguments for trusting this project involves the dramatic evolution of Lucasfilm Animation's technical capabilities across the past 17 years. Fans who watched The Clone Wars from its 2008 theatrical premiere through its Disney Plus revival witnessed a studio grow up in real time. Season 1 looks like a different show than Season 7. The character models, the lighting, the fluidity of combat sequences, the environmental detail, all of it improved year over year as the team gained experience and resources. Tales of the Jedi demonstrated another leap forward. The trailer for this new Maul series suggests they've continued that trajectory. This isn't the studio that fumbled through early seasons trying to figure out how to make animated Star Wars work. This is a mature operation with nearly 2 decades of institutional knowledge about what makes this medium sing. That matters. It's evidence of care. It's proof that somebody at Lucasfilm has been investing in the infrastructure necessary to do these characters justice. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this series will definitely deliver everything you want. I've been a Maul fan since May 19, 1999, when I watched Ray Park ignite that double-bladed lightsaber for the first time. I've carried the wound of the cancelled game since I saw that Game Informer footage and realized what we'd lost. I've watched Filoni give this character depth and meaning across multiple series, while simultaneously hoping for the protagonist experience that never came. We've been burned, all of us, by announcements that didn't deliver, by corporate decisions that prioritized convenience over craft, by the gap between what we were promised and what we received. But here's what I keep coming back to. The person making this series is the same person who took a character with 6 minutes of screen time and 142 minutes of interiority. The voice actor who'll almost certainly be involved is the same person who's been giving Maul psychological depth for over a decade. The animation studio has spent 17 years proving they can do this medium justice. If anyone can finally give Maul his protagonist story, not as consolation for the game we never got, but as vindication for everyone who saw something special in that horned figure back in 1999, it's this team. I'm choosing to believe. Not because I'm naive, not because I've forgotten the wounds, but because sometimes you have to let yourself hope, even when experience tells you to brace for impact. Please don't suck. Please don't suck. Subscribe for more stories like this.